Okay, so to start, I'm just going to show the really basic ways to create a document and then start setting type. So we're going to just start by opening InDesign and creating a new document. So I'm doing that here. And I'll just use the standard print size letter, but you can also come here and change it to anything you want custom. Right now it's set to picas, which is a typographer's measurement, but you can change it to inches and make it be 24 by 36 for your poster. And then for right now, you can unclick facing pages. So just as a reminder, facing pages is if you're working on a booklet, but so the pages will look at one another like they're sitting in a book. Whereas for this, when we're just doing a page, I'm going to unclick that. So here we go, then I can create it. And if you did something wrong, you can always change that. So there's information here, properties. I can click facing pages or not. And then I can also go up here and document setup, file, document setup, and then change it over here. So I'll keep it to this for now. Okay, so now let's just begin by creating setting some type. So what I'm going to do is under window, I'm going to go and grab my character palette and my paragraph palette. They also exist here, but I just like having more control over where I put them in on my page. So now I'm going to go under the type tool, or you can hit T in your on your keyboard. Oh, sorry, that went over here. So I'll just click T over here, type tool, and drag down, and now I can start typing things. So to have something to work with, I'll use something, just an article. So I just went on the New York Times, and let's just pick something at random. Here, portraits of strengths. And I will go and copy that, and I'm going to paste it into text edit rather than pasting it directly into InDesign. So I'm going to go here, copy some more text so we have more to work with. Okay, and then this first paragraph. That should be enough. And then in text edit, I can go over here at the top under format. I can change it to make plain text, which means that there's no longer any styling on my text. So that means that I'll be able to change that on my own, and I can double check that there's no place where they just hit enter and everything is cut up for that you don't want. So just make sure it's kind of clean amount of text. Okay, then I'm just copying that, and I'm going to paste it into my text box. Okay, so now I have under my paragraph palette, I have everything I want to shape the text in terms of it as a paragraph. So I can change the align, I can move it, so center align, right align, justified, etc. I can also do things like, if I select all of this, I can move it a little bit, indent it a little bit. So indent a full paragraph. I could just also double click just this section here and indent that as a whole, which is useful. I'm going to undo that. And I can also indent the beginning of a paragraph, so just the first line instead of indenting the whole thing. So if I were to copy this, you would see how they're both indented. So it gives you over here in your paragraph palette, you have everything that it affects the whole paragraph, and then in character palette you have all the more details of like what typeface you're using, what size it's at, etc. So for now, I'll just go down and use something for portraits of strength is the title. So you really want to read what you're doing, what you're typesetting. especially later on when you're typesetting longer amounts of text. You want to make sure you know what the headline is versus isn't. So here, Portraits of Strength is my title, and then I can go in my character palette and change that to anything I want. In my up here, when you click down in your downward menu, you can change the filters to being, you can either leave it as is and just scroll down and see what you have access to, but if you want to be more specific and say, actually, I want something that's really bold, I could go under properties and say I only want to see everything that's really heavyweight. So I could do that. And then for, oh, I didn't press enter, so I'll do that again. So I'm going down here, filters, heavyweight, and I'll pick something, this fun one. You guys have access to that one on Adobe Fonts. Then I can decide what my body copy is going to be. So I don't want minion because it's a default, but maybe I do want a serif. So I'll go here, and I'm going to remove the heavy weight for this part, and I can decide, maybe I want a high X height. Okay, that's very detailed, but you do have access to this kind of, you can be that specific with it, which is nice. So I'll pick Iowan Old Style, let's say, and I'll just do Roman. Okay. So again, I can continue doing that for every part of my text. So I'll just go, I'm just going to go quick and say, maybe these will all be, trying to go quick. Helvetica, regular for now. We'll see how that works. Maybe it won't work too well. But then, just to show you again, you can make the type bigger here. So this gives you access to that. And what's good to know is you don't really need to have multiple text boxes, because you can do almost everything just by using space before, this kind of left indentation. So it allows you to not have to have things like out of control on your page. Everything stays in this one text box as much as possible. So here I'm going to remove the indent on the first line because I don't think I need it. But I'm going to do some space before. So now I have a little bit more space before this information and this information. Again, you could do, if you wanted to make your first letter of a paragraph a drop cap, you could do that right here. So in the under the paragraph panel, there's drop cap. And then I could also add more letters to my drop cap just by selecting that. And I could also, if I wanted to, change it to a different typeface for fun. Why not? I mean, be mindful when you're doing that. You could do that, like when would be appropriate to do that. It might be appropriate if you're designing a magazine, but probably not a regular everyday publication. Okay, so I want to bring this back to my regular type. I can use this eyedropper tool, so not the color theme tool, but eyedropper tool, and just click my type here, and it'll just bring it back to what I had. Okay, so then let's see. So our goal here is to create hierarchy, right? So to create clarity between the different information that we have. So I guess I could keep Cooper, why not? I could also make this Portraits of Strength the same size. Oops, not that. I'll undo that. Also Cooper, if I wanted to. Because why not? I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate for what I'm talking about, because Cooper is kind of a 80s, well, now I'm probably 70s typeface. So think about that as well. But maybe what I really want, in order to make it really clear this is the headline, is to make it a lot bigger. Like, think about, you're allowed to do that. And then maybe I'm sending it below. And then I want to adjust, so I want to adjust the spacing, so the leading in my type, so I can do that here. You generally don't want the leading to be the default. So I would add a little bit in this case so it's easier to read. Remembering the context that this is like a newspaper, it should be something that's easy to read. Okay, and then I have this information. I want that to be smaller and different. I'll make that, say I'll make that a sans serif. And again, you can play around with what you're doing there. Let's do this. And maybe I'll indent it a little bit so it's kind of out of the way. I don't know. And maybe I will put more space before my portraits and after my portraits. So I'm going here in the space before and space after. So just remember that's there. Okay, here's what I'll do. I'm going to delete this information just because, for the sake of time, this is an installment of this series and we're not dealing with a series, so let's pretend we don't have that part. So now I have my secondary information about what this article is about. Maybe I'll set that in Cooper Light if I have it. So it's kind of similar to the headline but different. I could make it here. Let's see what happens if I do that. I could make it a shorter paragraph without having to hit enter, just by going over here in the paragraph panel and go right indent. So this way I'm giving it, yeah, I can shape it more. And one thing you want to know is you don't want to, if it's a person's name, Pierre Mukeba, you don't want to separate those two words. So either make sure Pierre, it's on the first line or in the second line. Okay. Okay, maybe now I don't like this. I'll make this look like that too. Okay, so here we go. Now if we're reading this information, let's make that, okay, now we've gone full Cooper. I can make that. How would I create this? I feel like, so this is kind of a questionnaire that's being filled in. Okay, then I probably want to create some hierarchy here. So I'm gonna actually add more space between these lines. And I can do that either by adding leading or by actually doing space before, considering each is a different paragraph. So here we go. Then I'll change this to maybe bold. And then for now, I'll just eyedrop all the information. When did you originally make this work? Okay, now I'm realizing this is an interview. So then actually right here, I have the first question in my interview. So maybe I will adjust that. Anyway, so obviously be reading what you're designing so that you have the chance to really make something that's appropriate. So I think you'll all remember how to do this, but I'm just showing you again kind of the process of figuring out different ways to create hierarchy. So I could also decide that I want, you know, the name to be below instead of in line. So all this information can, there's all these different ways you could shape it. We could cut it out again, like we did in class, cut it out and, you know, make a new text box and then put it to the right or something. It would totally depend what the information is and how you would want to deal with it. But thinking about both spacing of the page, like you have to worry about the relationship of the type to the type and also the type and the page and where the elements live with one another. So you could actually do this first with just boxes as a way to look at it in space. So remembering what we did with the first exercise with the 2D principles, that's really what you're doing here, as well as dealing with type. So real quick, also you can change the color of type if you want to. So I'll do that here. I can show you, I guess I'll do that also in this video. You can also apply some gradients, and I think I showed you guys how to do that, but I'll do it again. So I'm just selecting the words that I want to apply gradients to, and I'm clicking here in the left panel where the gradient swatch tool is, pulling that down. So now I have a gradient, but then if I want to modify the color of the gradient, I have to go over here on the right side under appearance, under fill, and then go under the third little button is the gradient one, and then I can go and say, actually I want the white to be yellow and the black to be, you have to move things around, green. Okay, why not? So again, a few other things to remember about just like this really basic type stuff is kerning. You guys did that exercise, but I can look really close and decide, okay, maybe this S is a little too close to the T, so I'm gonna kern it. So that's Option or Alt, and you're holding that down, and then you're clicking the arrows right or left. So left brings it closer and right brings it farther apart. And you can also do that right here in your character palette. Bring it up or down. Then I feel like the I and the T are a little too far apart, so I'm going to bring that in a little bit. So basically, when you're kerning, just remember you're trying to have all the letters have a similar amount of space between all of them, and these details become apparent when something's really large. So you want to be paying attention to that whenever you have large type. And then up here, when I'm looking at the artist, this feels like a little tight. It's hard to read, so I'm going to add a little bit of spacing between them. So right here, if it pops up, I can add it right here. And now this looks more legible to me. So yeah, remember that you have these options in the palette. So you have the kerning and the tracking up here. Okay. Finally, just for this video, I'll make another one with other information we've done. We have, just remember that if you want to have more neon colors, you'll do that over here under Edit and then Transparency Blend Space. You can change that from CMYK to RGB, and then that allows you to, now let's go back to my gradient again. So I'm selecting that, this part, and I'm going into my gradient panel. Let's see. Well, the gradient panel for some reason is still CMYK, so let's not do gradient. Let's do just a regular color. I think it's, for some reason, because it's InDesign, it doesn't allow you to do CMYK here, but it might just be allowing you to do it anyway. You just can't see it. So here we go. Now I have this neon color. It's not that neon. I'm disappointed in how neon it is. Okay, so I can't tell if it's working. Okay, so here we go. This was the first things to worry about. So kerning, this happening under the character palette, tracking also under character palette, that's adding space to the whole line. Leading is in the character palette over here, so that's the space between the lines, and then type size, and those are kind of the most important ones to remember. And again, also remember that you have different weights to all your fonts. So if I click here, if I select Portraits of Strength, I can make it, you know, black italic. Whatever I have access to is also available here under the name of the font. And then your paragraph options over here in this palette allow you to change the alignment, centering things, right aligning things. So those are also really important, the space before and space after. These will be the tools you need in order to kind of create hierarchy, especially if you're putting, you know, the date in your poster, the date of the event, any kind of information like here you're explaining what the information is and then giving the actual information. You really want to be using hierarchy when you're doing those things. Okay, so that's it for our first video. I'll make another one for more.